Great little wild or cultivated leafy green everyone should know. Today we're talking a little bit about Orache, also known as Saltbush. And I have a nice little fish box filled with them. So the first thing that you may think is, what is it? This lamb's quarters. So these are not lamb's quarters, but they are the closest look-alike to lamb's quarters that I know of, and most people confuse them with lamb's quarters. But one taste, and you will understand that this plant is not lamb's quarters because, just like the name implies, saltbush, this plant is salty and it grows in alkaline soil. Here's my first patch that I found this week.
I'm here in South Dakota, about an hour and a half west of Gettysburg, and I found my first orach, or atriplex. I don't know if this is atriplex hortenses, but it's orach. It's great. You can see it's all coming up in this wash where the area has been disturbed.
Now, when I'm traveling with fresh plants, I want to make sure that they don't wilt. I had about a 10-hour drive home back to Minnesota we're nearly in Montana. I have an ice pack. I put a little plastic bag in there. Honestly, I probably wouldn't even need to do this because the greens are so hardy and I have the air condition going. Now you can see the lamb's quarters on the right from my yard next to Orache. And you'll notice that the lamb's quarters leaves, you can kind of see some of the differences here. The lamb's quarters leaves are a little bit more thin and papery. Both of these plants are delicious, but you can see it's kind of thin. The Orache is a little more succulent. You can kind of see that they're thicker. Now, another thing to talk about is epicuticular wax. So that's the leaf there, and both of these plants are going to have kind of like a white bloom on them. That wax helps them shed water, and it can be wiped off, but it's also an indicator of freshness, just like bloom on fruit. Now, look at the stems of the lamb's quarters here. This is how you can tell them apart. Lamb's quarters leaves the stems are positioned alternate on the stem, and Orache is positioned in an opposite pattern. Good morning. I thought for fun I would just compare and contrast some lamb's quarters and Orache for you. Here's the lamb's quarters. The lamb's quarters are super mild, so good. There's really no astringency or anything like that. They're very, very pleasant. The Orache is a little different. And as I mentioned, you're going to get varieties, especially if you're dealing with wild varieties. Like these are wild. I was picking these in South Dakota. They could have some bitterness, or they might not, because there's many different species. The leaves of Orache are much more crunchy and succulent, like eating a succulent, like an aloe leaf. And then right away, you get this pop of salt. And that's something that you really do not get with lamb's quarters. These also have a little bit of bitterness and astringency, which is more pronounced than I thought it would be, but it's not the end of the world, especially if you mix them with different greens. So you have much more crunchy, much more succulent, firm, durable leaves. And it's just such a great plant to grow in the garden. So easy to grow, and you get a great yield from it. Goes a long way. This is an easy plant to grow in your yard. There I'm growing some with a bunch of purslane, and that's it. Great plant to know. It's delicious, like lamb's quarters with a little bit of a salty taste. That's Orache. More information on the post on my website. There's a link at the top of the video description for that. Thanks for watching.